We're on. I'd like to call the special board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017 to order with roll call, please.
McAlpine?
Here.
Kraus?
Here.
Betts?
Here.
Weinhammer?
Here.
Cavelli?
Here.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Are we on here? Yeah, we are. This is awesome to see so many people participate. I wish everybody would come like this every meeting. Usually we have 3 or 4 people. So welcome to the Village of Cary. This is a great opportunity for the village. This is an introductory meeting for the village board and residents to meet the developer to discuss a potential development opportunity at the Maplewood property. The format of the meeting is everybody will be given an opportunity to have to discuss what they think with the village board. We try to limit the comments to 3 minutes each. We typically will have a public comment before things start, but we've moved it to the end of the after the presentation. So hopefully, perhaps some of the questions that you may have might be answered during that dialogue. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian Simmons, who's going to get us started here.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, this evening is primarily a discussion of the Maplewood property. I do have a brief presentation that will go through discussion of the site and some land use regulations regarding the property, and then we'll introduce the developer to come forward and give some information regarding himself and his proposed concept for the site. So briefly, my discussion will focus on a site overview of the property, looking at the existing conditions of the site, review the sale process to date through the school district that it's taken, and how we got to this evening, and then review the land use policy direction in the village's comprehensive plan that speaks towards the subject property, and then finally introduce the developer for his presentation. Briefly, just to focus on Maplewood property, it's a very unique site from a standpoint that it has a lot of history to it. It's historically been utilized as a school and athletic fields. It's located near the heart of downtown, which essentially it's a greenfield site from a development standpoint that it hasn't had a lot of development activity on it through its lifetime. In addition to the school, you also have the bus parking facility that's there, which is a buffer between the metro lot and the use of that site. The site has a unique viewpoint to it from a development standpoint that it's a 15-acre site that's relatively close to a downtown area, the downtown of Village of Cary, that has access to the metro station, which is inviting for potential transit-oriented development of that site. So that would encourage the use of the metro station and also encourage additional activity in the downtown area. It's also unique, similar to other suburban locations, that it's surrounded by single-family residential, which has historically been there. So develops that in turn provides some development challenges as far as how the development or redevelopment of the property could blend in with the surrounding residential areas. And finally, from a ownership standpoint, is owned by another local taxing body that has interest in selling the property. They have no additional use for the site. As the school has reached the end of its useful life, they're looking to sell the property to get it off their tax rolls and then possibly put in the public tax roll once developed. A brief overview of how we got to this evening. The District 26 advertised a request for bids for the property at the end of May, seeking proposals from the development community for the purchase of the site or contract purchase of the property. On July 5th, those bids were received and they held a bid opening to review any proposals that were submitted. And then over the course of the next 2 weeks, reviewed those proposals. And finally, their District 26 board selected a preferred purchaser for the property, and they've entered into a contract with them for the purchase and development of the site. This evening's discussion is the first introduction of the developer to the village board and also to the public. for that matter, is really intended to be the first step of a process of going through and developing plans for the site for potential redevelopment of the property. With any development that occurs within the village or any new use that comes in, we refer back to the guidance of the village's comprehensive plan. For the public that may not be aware, the comprehensive plan was a document that was recently adopted in January 2015, replaced the existing comprehensive plan that was adopted in the late 90s, but is a land use policy document that speaks towards how the village should develop over time. So it looks at a long-term vision as far as what uses are appropriate for specific properties in the village, and then develops certain implementation steps in order to see through that plan. The comprehensive plan had several workshops and hearings that were held throughout the planning process. Over 1,000 people participated in the planning process for the comp plan, which includes throughout the document several references to the Maplewood property. It was a significant focus. There's probably 25 instances where the plan refers to the Maplewood property and provides guidance as far as how development may occur on the site in the future. Some of that guidance is summarized in the slide. Specifically looks at multifamily development should be encouraged in and around downtown Cary. Looks at the Maplewood School as a potential desirable location for a mix of multifamily and single-family attached housing, park space, and possibly mixed use with commercial on the ground floor would also be an appropriate use. The plan also recognizes the nature of the property being within an existing single-family neighborhood. It encourages that any site planning and design should be sensitive to the needs of the residential neighborhoods that surround the property, both to the south and the west. And then finally, one of the implementation steps of the plan is for the village to partner with District 26 to ensure responsible redevelopment of the property should that occur. The plan also, comprehensive plan also includes 3 focus areas within the plan that are highlighted as sub-area plans. One of those specifically is the downtown location. Really highlights key concepts and strategies for future land use and development in those areas. Within the downtown plan, there's a specific plan for the Maplewoods site that kind of speaks towards the future use of how development may occur in there and the key planning concepts that any development of that property should incorporate. This plan here is that concept plan that's in the comprehensive plan. Again, this is not what a plan that should be built on the site. It just looks at key elements and concepts as far as how the property could develop, and then basically looks at 5 key elements as far as how development of the site should occur and things that should be incorporated into any redevelopment activity. The first of those 5 things is looking at transitional development, again focusing on the subject property being surrounded by existing single-family residential areas. Looks at ways that development of the property can transition from that single-family area to potentially higher density uses of the north, further away from the single-family. So on the slide, you can see a couple examples that are in the comprehensive plan as far as townhouse development, single-family attached, potentially single-family detached housing that could be in the buffer areas or the periphery of the site that border existing single-family residences both to the south and to the west. Developing as you go further into the plan or further into the site away from Krenz Avenue and School Street, the plan calls out for potential multifamily housing and could be a mix of either purchase, condo, rental, or rental housing in the area. Looks at densities stepping up as you move away from the property lines, the lower density on the periphery of the site, potentially higher story development as you get closer to the train station and to the north of the site. The plan also looks into ways that any redevelopment of the property could connect to the existing neighborhoods. looks at specifically a new roadway being constructed that would connect to Carroll Algonquin Road on the northwest corner of the site, and potential connections to the metro station or residential subdivision to the south. Whether those are vehicular access or pedestrian access, there's different ways that connectivity can be provided to provide a steady flow of vehicles in and out of the site without negatively impacting surrounding neighborhoods. The plan also looks for incorporation of some park or open space into redevelopment. The concept plan looked for a park specifically on the south side of the site, but as any development may occur in the site, there could be open spaces that could be incorporated into the development that would be utilized by both new residents in the proposed development and also existing residents surrounding the property, whether it be a more urban style park or plaza or open green field that can be utilized for different park recreation uses. And then finally, the plan looks at, again, with the existing neighborhood that surrounds the site, providing adequate buffer areas between any proposed development and existing uses. So in the plan, it highlights, landscaping along the western portion of the property and also the southern portion of the rear homes along Krenz Avenue should development occur, so that those uses, the impact of new development behind those existing uses are mitigated as much as possible. This plan then shows the full downtown area subplan with the concept plan incorporated. Essentially just looks at ways that the site, as it were to be redeveloped, can potentially connect into the downtown area, so that it's not just a site by itself, but that is incorporated or extension potentially of downtown, so that individuals that live here or other uses that may be in the site would be able to access the downtown area via walking, driving, and also the downtown area. Individuals that are utilizing the downtown have a way to leave that area as well without existing roadways on Main Street or the residential subdivision.
Brian, can you orient everyone here of where the Maplewood property is compared to the downtown, just so everyone knows where you're talking?
Sure. On this specific image, the area that's in orange, the buildings that are shown in orange on the left-hand side of this, more in the center left-hand side of the screen, is the Maplewood property, and the concept plan specifically for that site. And then the red buildings that are on the lower right-hand corner of the slide indicate the downtown area. So you can see Route 14 and the curve that's in Main Street, the pond that's in the Veterans Park is all the way on the right-hand side of this slide. So that would be on the north side of Route 14. And then the red buildings there are showed potential new commercial development that could occur within the downtown as part of the overall downtown concept plan. So with that, that's a brief summary of my presentation. I will introduce Patrick Taylor.
One LLC, selected purchaser of the property through the school district. I'll invite him to come forward and present.
In the property, and then discuss potential feedback and discussion this evening regarding the property from the board and the public to provide for him before he moves forward and develops plans. So with that, if there's any questions from myself, I'll be happy to invite Mr. Taylor forward.
Are there any questions for Brian?
No.
Brian, can you pull up the that plan? Thank you.
Sure.
By the way, he did a phenomenal job of describing that property. I feel kind of distant second here. My name is Patrick Taylor. I'm one of the principals of Central One, along with my family. I've basically been primarily a single-family home builder, and I've been doing this for about 40 years. When I say 40 years, on my own. Before that, for 20 years, I basically was working for public builders and some private builders along the way. I'm pretty well known if you were around the Hoffman Estate, Schaumburg area, probably built about 2,000 homes. Most of the developments that we've done are, and I got kind of into this niche about 40 years ago, were kind of upscale. Part of that reason was I worked for a public home builder. And it's kind of funny when I got to give you a little background on it. My boss lived over on Wolf Road, which was about 200 yards from here. So I spent a lot of time at his house. But most of the product we built was starter homes, homes of about 900 square feet to 2,000 square feet, optional one-car garage. And for whatever reason, I wasn't that enthralled doing it. So once I got in on my own, I started building a product that was approximately 2,400 to about 3,600 square feet. And we kept building that over the years. And of course, the market kept changing and changing and getting a little better. And we continued to build that product. And currently, the product that I have is that we have a subdivision that's in Western Springs, Illinois, which is, it's a golf course we purchased, and it's about 106 acres, and it's about 348 lots. And it's a PUD, and it's made up of townhouses and then 3 single-family products. And the price range of those homes before the market drastically changed on all of us sitting here, we were basically starting at about $350,000 up to over $1 million. I have in fact, if I could, I'd like to give it to the members if I could. It gives you an idea of what we've done. And that project we're still in the middle of, and we'll probably be at it for another 4 or 5 years. But what was kind of the reason I'd like you to look at it, and I would like you, if you get a chance, to call the Village of Western Springs and check what our relationship is and what we've done and how closely we worked with this village putting this development together. And I think you'll find that you'll give me a pretty favorable response. But if I could, I'd like to just give it to you so you could take it home. I don't want you to spend a lot of time on it tonight, but at least it just shows who we are and that I have done some developments of size.
We can just pass them down.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Here, I can help you pass them out.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I got this. You'll have to share that. Good, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. But if you take a look at that, you'll see I've got different color products there. And it goes from townhouses, and I don't have one with me, but it shows you that there's about 4 different single-family products. And the thing that's kind of nice is how we intermixed it. And I did learn quite a bit from that. And what attracted me to this parcel of property is my own feeling is the business plan that I had for over 40 years or 50 years has changed. And what I liked about it was the close proximity to public transportation. And I think if you go out and you find out the way our market is, that it's very fragmented. And what little market is out there is oriented towards public transportation. The second thing is, the lesson I've learned is the product I built for 40 to 50 years is pretty much antiquated today. People are looking basically for smaller homes, not only smaller homes, smaller lots. They're all tired of maintaining them. So, and basically because of the aging population, I look at myself when I say this, is they want to get rid of the steps in the home. And what I did is when I looked at this parcel of property, I looked at it and I thought, this is really something that I think fits the direction of which the state of Illinois and this country in general is going. So I had a meeting with Brian Simmons and Jake Wright, the village manager, and I told them what I wanted to do. And I started out and I said, I wanted to have some apartments along the railroad tracks, 3-4 stories. Then I'd like to have some multifamily housing. And before I got finished, Brian Simmons said, did you ever take a look at our master plan? And he popped it at me, and I looked at it, I pointed at it, and I said, that's what I want. Now, I didn't look at it, you know, I mean, I got the feel for it, and the more I looked at it, it's really what I feel very strongly and what I really desire to try to bring into your community. Now, having said that, I also know that there are surrounding residents, and I don't know what your feelings are, because I haven't, while I've built in a lot of communities around there, and by the way, I did build just under 100 homes in Cary. I did Greenfields Unit 7 and 8. So it's not that I'm not familiar with it. In fact, I think when I was at the meeting, when the plans got approved, I don't think it was downstairs. Weren't you upstairs? It might have been, it was quite a while ago. So what I'm doing is, instead of putting a plan together, what I really wanted to do, I wanted to come before you this evening before I put my plan together, because it's going to be close to that. But what I really want to do is I want to get as much input from you as I possibly can. Because I've done this for a long time. I've done a lot of zoning. And instead of putting something down on a piece of paper, I want to come as close to what your desires are. And I still have a plan that I generally have to have. I don't deal with master plans and that. I deal with the public. I know what the public wants. I have a good feel for what I can sell. And sometimes that doesn't match up with the community. But I would like to get it. And someone was saying, when I was talking to Brian Simmons and some of them, they said, well, there'll probably be some questions. Is that, you sure you want that same plan? And I said, as far as I'm concerned, for this discussion this evening, for my first introduction with you, that's exactly what I want. And I can tell you exactly what I would do with that plan if I could walk out of there and say, your plan is approved, Mr. Taylor, but you got to answer those questions. I'm prepared to answer any question you want this evening. And I have a few other things I'd like to bring up when I'm done. And I'm not sure if you're in a position to ask me those questions or if you spent enough time on this plan, but if you have any questions, like, I'm more than willing to tell you what height I'm looking for the buildings. I can tell you this, I looked at the master plan, and of course, you have to, I'm a developer and I can push. And one of the questions that was raised is they said, well, you know, that's just kind of a general plan. And I said, well, that's not a general plan. I count 5 stories. And they said, well, we're not sure we really want 5 stories. Well, to be truthful with you, I don't want 5 stories. I basically, what I would like to do, as I'm sitting here this evening, is generally, for everybody in the audience and everybody that's sitting up here, I would like to start out with the apartments in general. It'll be apartments along the railroad tracks. I'm going to have the townhouses that buffer all of the residential. And in between, I want to be able to have some condominiums that would be 2 and 3 stories. And what I'm trying to do, and the tough part for me, is the market today has changed. Years ago, everybody wanted to buy a home. Today, you want to know something? Home ownership isn't as popular as it was 20, 30 years ago. A lot of people want to rent. And I can go out and do studies and bring all kinds of reports into you and tell you what this market says and what this guru says. But the cold hard facts are, I'm going to have to put up some apartments up on the north end. I'm going to have to put some condominiums on the south end. And I'm going to have to start selling. And I'm going to have to start renting. And then I'm going to find out, the market will tell me what I can do with this piece of property. And I basically want to generally start with the apartments on the north end along the tracks, because that will have to be apartments. The area to the south will be condominiums that would be generally for sale. And where they meet the apartments, I'm not in a position to tell you tonight. I'm going to make some estimates when I put my plan together. But for purposes of discussion this evening, that's generally how I vision that plan that's here. And I think I probably occupied the floor probably more than I should have. And I'm here this evening telling you generally what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some guidance. And I'm here to answer any questions you have that you feel comfortable about asking on this short notice. And by the way, thank you for coming out this evening at this time. Okay.
We're going to get to the public input, but is there any questions immediately from the village board right now?
I just have a question. You had said about the condos to be 2 and 3 stories. Is that the same with the apartments?
I didn't quite hear.
The height of the apartments? How tall would the apartments be on
The
them?
apartments, let me show you here, let me take you through that. if I can.
You can take that microphone with you so you can be recorded.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to get off to the side so everybody can see it. These would definitely be 4 stories in this area right here. This would be the 2 stories. This would be 3 stories. And then what I'm doing is I'd have the townhouses, because I'm not sure till I put my plan together where the open space will be. Because I think when we get into open space, I also played a lot of baseball and I played a lot of basketball, and I was in physical education when my first goal was to be an educator. I changed it along the way, probably shouldn't have, but it did, on things. And what I would like to do with that is I would ultimately like to, I'd like to probably move this to a different area, but whatever I buffer over here for the residences, I would personally, instead of townhouses, I'd like to detach the townhouses. And the reason I'd like to do that, I'd like to get it closer to a single-family home. So, and I know I wasn't going to bring that up this evening, but I see everybody here, and I'm sure some of those questions will come up. So this would basically be 1 and 2 stories. This will be, let's call it 3 to 4 stories. This area will be 2 to 3 stories. Is that kind of answer to give you? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board right now?
I have one question. Has your company done any mixed use?
Pardon?
Has your company done any mixed use developments where you have some retail on the bottom?
Could I ask you what, you mean like commercial and residential?
Sure.
No,
Retail,
I've done
residential?
mixed use, but it's all been in residential, different residential uses.
So have you done like a retail residential?
I do not do retail.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a comment. I just want to say thanks for coming out and listening to the residents, because that hasn't always been adhered to in the past. But it's good that you're here, and I appreciate you doing that. You said you have a plan that you have to have, and I think a lot of concerns from the residents do with density. So what would be the minimum number of units you would need to have an acceptable or profitable development?
I understand the question. I don't think I have an answer, because one of the things I'm going to do, more than likely, if we do the apartments and the condominiums, I've done my last very large project, which was the one in Western Springs, from a financial standpoint. And today, with the way funds are, I will not be building all of that myself. And more than likely, I will work with somebody on the apartments. But apartments, the density will have an effect on whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, or if they're 3 bedrooms. So I'm not trying to evade the question, but I couldn't give you a density, I couldn't give you an answer on that as I'm sitting here today. When you say density, is it because of height, or is it because of the number of units within the development?
I think both, and we'll see what the residents have to say,
Yeah.
but I think you're probably going to get an earful. That's my opinion. I might be wrong.
But let me ask you a question. And I want everybody to hear this, so they can all. Does the density concern you? Because where my logic was, everybody asked the same question on density. But where I'm coming from is that's why I want to get as much density as I possibly can up against the railroad tracks. And my logic is have the density up against the railroad tracks and keep the minimum amount of density where I'm buffering the residential units. And I think if you do that right and you keep that density down next to the residential area, in fact, what I'd like to do, I would rather have some, I call them detached townhouses, because that's less density than the townhouses that you probably have on this plan. That's something that would be beneficial to me. So I'll give you, I know it isn't a direct answer, but it's the best I can do this evening.
No, it helps. And to Trustee Cavelli's point, I think some people are expecting some sort of retail usage down, around the metro parking or something like that. And this is a fully residential component. So I don't know. We'll see what the feedback is to it. But
I'm not saying I would explore that. I mean, I got to tell you something. If I feel that there's any type of a retail market, I mean, I'd probably be the first one coming in here and proposing it. So I'm not prepared to talk about it this evening, but it's one thing that I am more than willing to talk to anybody about.
thank you.
Okay.
Any other?
I have a question for Brian first. The roadway that we're going to plan on extending out to Cary Algonquin Road, is that abutted up to the railroad tracks, or is there going to be room between the railroad tracks and the roadway to allow development between in that space?
To be determined.
Okay.
It's not set in stone where it can go. In the plan here, they're showing buildings between the roadway and the railroad tracks. It certainly could be that the roadway could be in the periphery of the development, and then the development is bounded by the single-family homes on both the west and south and the roadway on the north. But as we develop the final site plan for the site, we can work out those details as far as how it would be.
Okay.
And just, okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
I have two more
I
things. Yeah.
think that's, and similar too to some of these other access here that we have to the site. I mean, nothing is set in stone. I mean, this really depends on what kind of development comes in and what feedback we get and how things lay out here.
Right. I will say I feel much more comfortable having heard your presentation than I did coming into the meeting. I really wasn't sure what to expect. If we took the apartments out of the equation, but still focused on the density that you're looking for in terms of maybe owner-occupied townhome type development, would that kill the deal if we got rid of the apartment complex of it?
The apartments are, to me, the apartments are a pretty critical portion of it. A couple of reasons. One is that site, there is a school that's got to be removed. There's some remediation costs. And I'm not naive enough, and if Brian and Jake probably weren't here, I'd probably also mention I could ignore the traffic pattern that you're talking about coming from Cary Algonquin Road into that train station. But I've been around long enough to know that what we're going through here, this is going to have a profound effect on the village of Cary.
Oh, definitely will. I mean, I live right there on Main Street,
Without-
so.
I mean, and anybody that says it
takes me 10
isn't.
minutes to get out
it's
my
im-
driveway.
But it's really important, if this is done right, this can have a very positive effect on this community.
Oh, I definitely agree.
And I basically think that that road is going to have to be run. Brian hasn't said it, but I also think that road isn't going to be where it's shown. It's going to be back up on the north edge of that property. And it's going to have to be behind our units.
Okay.
It's my guess. Tell me, I mean, they haven't said it to me, but I've done this. I've been there before and done that, and it's going to be there. And you're going to need it.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't want, I definitely want the road. My dad wanted the road
But
30
it's
years
something I'm
ago.
going to have to address from a density standpoint, which all comes back to how I come up with what I need for density to make these numbers work.
Right, right.
That's why it's,
Okay,
Okay.
I'm fine there. Thank you.
Did you have another question?
No, the density was all tied in with the apartments.
Okay.
When it comes to apartments, are you looking at regular fair market rental value apartments?
yes,
Okay, just want to make sure that everyone's aware of
yes,
that.
yes. Yeah.
And again, I reiterate that I think everyone is very glad to have you out here so that we can bounce these things off of you, so that you can go back and then develop a plan.
Right,
So I
thank you.
appreciate you taking it this way and saying, hey, let me hear from the board, but also from the residents, and then going back and kind of coming up with a
Okay,
plan,
fair enough.
revisiting us.
I have some questions. I agree with Trustee McAlpine. Thanks for coming out and listening to the residents and hearing what they have to say when they say it. I spent just under 10 hours this weekend going door to door, talking to about 150 or 140 homeowners in this area. I had a resident join me partway through it. So I'm going to ask some of the questions that they had, and I know you might not be able to answer some of them. So with regard to the intersection of Cary Algonquin Road, where there, and I think it's where Siebert extends, or where it might extend, will there be a stoplight there? I guess it's really tough to turn, it would be tough to turn out of there. I think it was on Norman too.
That would be something that the village would have to work out here with the developer, so.
And then how will this affect our current schools? Do you know how many residents are projected?
Say that again.
How will
Sometimes,
this- Sure.
you got to understand, I'm reaching that point in my life where by hearing sometimes.
No problem.
So if I ask you a couple times, don't be offended.
All right,
My wife drives me nuts with
it's okay.
asking me to repeat
All right, how will
myself.
this affect our current schools?
What's-
How many people are you expecting? How many children are you
That I
expecting?
wouldn't know, but I can tell you this, that my own gut tells me if we go out and do that study, that the impact based on the current standards that they use for determining the number of kids in the students, or students in the school, would have a very small impact because of the apartments and the multifamily product that we're building, very small.
That would be something, once we have a more concrete plan, trustee Weinhammer, that we would look at and talk to the school district regarding.
Okay, because some of the residents' concerns was, we're going to go ahead and close down a school, well, it's already been closed, and then we go ahead and have possibly hundreds of people here with, children, Briargate is pretty full as it is. How is it going to affect the school? So that's one of the concerns.
I think that's something that, jumping ahead, I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I think that issue will get you the answer on, and I think you'll be satisfied with that answer. That's not going to be one of the stumbling blocks. Because I think we're going to have a very minor effect relative to the density that we're having on this property.
Okay, and then maybe Eric can answer this question. You answered that the buildings will probably be about 4 stories tall with the apartments, correct? So somebody had asked this question. The current fire truck ladders, are they tall enough to reach 4 stories right now? Somebody who's a firefighter's here? No, okay. And then trustee Kostler had asked this question, the definition of high and low density housing. Can you give me a number of population? I don't think you were able to, right, with
I'm not
answering
at
that?
this time. When I'm listening to everything you're saying. When I put my plan together, and as I get this information, I will be better prepared when I come back for that presentation to give you a much better answer.
Have you thought about putting any single-family homes in here?
I am trying to do what I call detached townhouses. And my definition of a detached townhouse is a smaller single family and density, and I want some reasonable density with it. What the lesson that I've learned since the market has, since 2007, the lesson that I've learned, and I built upscale housing. If I want to take you through what I've done, it's very high end. And the lesson that I've learned is people basically don't want to pay for land. They want a house. And if a person wants 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 3-car garage, they'll pay for enough land to get that 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 3-car garage. But they won't pay for any extra land for the privilege of having that. So what I have to do, and what's happened, the cost of improvements have far exceeded where the value of homes are today. So what happens with that, you have to have a small lot to fit your home on it. Now the homes, my single-family homes, if I could do them right, what I call it, and I'm calling it a detached townhouse, because I'm trying to ask in a, I don't know if I want to use the word cute, but in a certain way that I want smaller lots. The zoning for single-family lots is antiquated. It's not even close to what the public wants today. And I'm here, I deal with the public. I can sell homes to the public. And sometimes the municipalities won't give me the zoning that I need to build that product. But I would like to have some single families there. Yes.
Jennifer, can I cut in for a minute?
Yeah.
That was kind of where my inquiry was coming from in terms of if we got rid of the apartments, would you be willing to then focus more on a smaller lot size, high density still, but single family?
I understand your question. I don't have an answer today, but I've heard what you
Because
said.
I'm willing to
Yes.
play.
I understand
ball
what,
there. Okay.
I understood the question.
Okay.
I don't have an answer though yet. Yeah.
Similar.
Okay, residents were concerned about what the parking situation would be. Where would parking be for the residents, like the apartments? Are you going to have parking underneath the apartment building? Are you going to have parking in front of it? Are you going the townhouses, the yellow dots on the side, are those the detached garages? Where are the apartments going to have people park? Those are some of those questions.
I understand the question. No, I understand exactly what
Okay.
you're saying. Again, when I come back with my plan, I will have an answer. My own opinion is I'll have both. I'm going to have underground parking for some, and there will be some above-ground parking in certain areas. But I don't know how much of each, as I'm sitting here this evening.
Okay. And then a lot of residents love that Cary's a small town feeling. They felt that with having possibly hundreds of residents come in, that they're going to lose that small town feel, that the area is surrounded by homes currently, and they don't know that they really wanted to have townhomes and apartments and condos mixed into that area right there.
Well, that, I don't have an answer for this evening. I can tell you that I'm looking strictly at where I think the market is today and what people will buy from me. And it's basically getting back down to smaller lots and more density, closer and very close to public transportation. And I have not put, just one thing I want to make very clear, I have not put a plan together yet. Remember, I've come in here with this for the starting point, and I'm listening to what you're saying. And I'm going to take all of that, and then we're going to sit down and we'll be back with something. But I don't know what it is yet because I'm still listening.
Did you have any more?
I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Now we're going to open it up to a public conversation, so they can give their
Very good.
comments. I've had one person sign in. I know that there's more people that would like to, so just raise your hand when we're done. I'm going to start with Christy Wagner since she started, she signed in. Is she available?
I had a question, first of all, before my comments. You had mentioned when you first stood up that you understand the aging population and the housing needs for older adults. Their needs are different, but I didn't hear that that was a component of your plan. I heard a lot about two-story, things. Is that not part of your plan at this thought?
Yes, no, I was going to tell you, part of what remember I also mentioned that there was going to be some condominiums for sale on the things. And that's basically one level.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
Oh, yes, no, I got to tell you something. I am married, and my wife, if there wasn't everything on one level, including the utility room, I've learned all of those things. It all has to be there.
I just didn't.
Yeah, no.
Okay, okay. All right. So my comments tonight are from the perspective of a Cary homeowner for over 30 years, Maplewood resident that long as well. And I'm just here to share some of my concerns about the development as well as the village's comprehensive plan for the space. When the school board began the discussions regarding the sale of the Maplewood property, many of my neighbors and I spoke at public meetings urging them to re-enter discussions with the Cary Park District to save our precious green space. When the Intergovernmental Committee of the Village of Cary and trustees and the District 26 board members met, I again attended those meetings and repeated our pleas and requests and concerns. And now we are at the point of development. And again, I'm here to plead for your consideration of open space, because once those fields are dug up and cement poured, we have lost a local treasure. I'm asking if a compromise can be made somehow to retain more open space. Think how many times all of us have been to games in those fields. As for the Cary Comprehensive Plan, I kind of look at that. I work for a governmental unit. I work for a library. We do strategic plans. We have plans. They're guides. They're guides. They're not set in stone. Projections and plans are based on projections and studies, a wish list, if you will. Just as the growth projections that justified building 2 new schools, which put our school district in the red and on the state watch list for years, and now we have 2 shuttered schools. And as a taxpayer who paid for those 2 referendums that built those schools, can you even begin to understand why I would be suspicious or doubt that the demand for this grandiose plan for commuter condos and associated future development could be a tad inflated? There's a lot of trigger words being tossed around: high density, traffic concerns are a very real issue, retention ponds, water retention, parking, traffic, red lights. This is a very emotional issue for all of us in the Maplewood neighborhood, as I hope that you can appreciate. Basically, I think it all boils down to what kind of a community does the Village of Cary want to be? Can we move forward with development and take into consideration the traditions that this village has held as cornerstones of family and community life? And I guess that's the question that, in effect, I'm asking. It's a little too late for District 26, but I'm asking our village board to consider. Thank you.
We'll try to do this as orderly as possible. We're going to try to keep comments to 3 minutes, as I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to be heard by the developer as well as the board. So why don't we start with the first row here? Is there somebody here in the first row that would like to address the village board or ask a question or a statement about the development on this side? Would you like to come up to the mic? And then please just give your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Mike Boyce. I live on Leader Drive, and I have been there since it began. So 1973 is when we moved in. I think the lady before me made a lot of wonderful points, very, very good points. And I think to make a comment, change is always difficult. You know, we've lived there, it's our original house. We've lived there for a very long period of time. And we've developed a culture in that area. And I think that as a community, as a village, you need to respect that. We don't want to see that lost. That's very, very critical. We've raised our children there, and now our children are raising children there. That's what the community is supposed to be about. So again, to reaffirm what she said, don't destroy the single-family concept. You know, our village was born on, raised on single-family ideas. I understand the tax issues that you're all going through and how much we need that, but I think it would be a good idea for you to share what taxes perhaps might be developed by this developer and what you would do with them. I think that that's very important. I don't think anybody wants to see any commercial in this kind of an area. This is a residential area. And I think that the comments about the traffic are absolutely critical. I do very honestly do not want to see one more car going down my street because of this development. Nor does anybody on Norman or anybody else want to see that. So we understand there's going to be some of that, but that's a critical issue. Also, we have some water problems. You know, we had the flood of the 100-year flood once again in the last 7 years. So there have been some water problems down there. How is that going to be addressed? We need to really look at that type of thing. Many of the questions were answered that I had. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think it would be very interesting to us to see what the costs of these homes would be, what the height is. I think the height is a big issue. I don't want to be staring out of my house looking at Tyvek Tower again, okay? Nobody wants to see that. So nobody really, I don't think, wants a 4-story anything in that area. I'd like to know what kind of rents would be charged in these homes. I'm sure you're going to do that kind of work to find out how much money you will be generating. And, again, because I don't know a lot about this, how would the property be taxed? I would assume it's the same way that any other piece of property in the village would be taxed. So I don't know if there are any incentives being given or anything like that, but I think I'd really like to know if that's going to happen. So, and again, I think one of the big questions is really the density issue. It's come up numerous times. So keep the community the way it is. We know it's going to change, but keep the culture the way it is. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? George, did you have anything to say? No? Let's go on this one. I'll go here. Anybody on the first row on this side? Anything they want to say? We'll start back over here on the second row. Is there anybody here who would like to offer some comments?
Hi, I'm Fran Steinke. I live on Alita for 44 years. We are the original owners. My question is, you keep talking about single-family townhomes, not attached. What's your lot size going to be?
I wouldn't have an answer for you.
Okay.
That's all something between the dialogue between me and the staff and then, right?
Okay, it's already
But I will tell you, I would like them as small as possible, okay?
okay, that's going to be great, possibly from your end.
Okay, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Typically, our homes are city lots, quarter acre each.
Right.
Typically. We have nice backyards, nice front yards, we have a nice area between homes. Now, you're going to be putting cookie cutter homes side by side by side. You're going to be taking up all this green space, water. Jennifer already brought it up earlier, that Maplewood typically has a drainage problem. Are you going to be putting in a retention pond? Are you going to maintain the sewer system, which our area in Cary has already been proven that most of us have invested everything from $800 to $5,000 to route out city sewers. Is the city going to come back, renovate the sewer system? I know neighbors just told me the other day, they had to contact a sewer company, a local vendor, $750. We put in additional tiles, over 5,000. I never went to the village, but are you as the village going to come into a leader drive, Arthur, Norman? Norman typically floods worse in the whole area. Are you going to send in a company to investigate that sewer system before you put in a new sewer system?
Can I answer that?
Please do.
Yeah, no,
I don't like sewer water.
No, let me stay up here.
I'm not going anywhere.
No, let me tell you something. The drainage requirements that I have to comply with today, when did you move into your house?
1973, November 23rd.
1975. If you go back and take a look at the drainage requirements that we have to comply with, are going to be many times more stringent than what you had to go through, many more times. Not only that, what I did was the custom housing. And you know what I did in all of my communities? I was coming into the last piece in all of these communities. And you know what I had to do? I had to take care, and this went on in Western Springs. Everything was existing housing on all those sites, and I had to correct all those issues. I had to correct that from a drainage standpoint and every other detention requirement standpoint.
Okay,
You-
granted that
yeah.
everything has gotten better in time, especially for sewers. We've noticed that on the other side of town.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the situation of flooding. All I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
yeah, I
you're going
understand.
to be putting in new sewers, new
Yes.
drain tiles.
Yes.
What's going to happen to the existing homes on Alita, Arthur, Norman, Mary? We do not need to flood. And when Cimarron built, there were no retention ponds. Then a year later, golly, our homes were flooding. Why? We had no retention ponds. I don't see a retention pond up there. and I don't want to be.
There isn't one.
Well, that's not good.
There isn't one, no, there isn't one up there, but you want to know something, the first time I show up with your engineer over here, it's already been pointed out to me. He already pointed out to me that there will be detention, over in this area right over in here.
Okay, because
And we're
currently,
gonna, and more than likely, if there is some drainage
Will you
issues in
point out
that
what he
area,
just
we're
pointed
gonna
out?
have to correct that.
okay, because
They won't tell me that, they're just gonna make me do it.
it's not only that, you're going to be linking into the Village of Cary sewer system. You have to. You're
Yes,
not putting in
yes.
your sewer
No.
system. Will the village come through and maintenance our
Hold on.
existing?
Just wait, excuse me, can we just have, please, could you hold your comment, please? Please, so we can hear the young lady that's up here with the developer.
These are all items that are going to be considered through the development review process, and this is a perfect opportunity here for residents like you to bring up that feedback so that we make sure that we look at those items.
To us, it's very important.
And the design of the sewer system will coincide with how the developer is going to put it on the site. It's very hard to determine that right now, but there will be a lot of conversation with our village engineer as well as with the developer on water retention and what we're going to do with our sewer system. Our sewer plant has the capacity, a lot of capacity to add new service to our current system right now.
Oh, that's great, as long as you go back and you check ours and renovate it, so when you link the two in, we're not sitting with sewer water.
Okay.
The other thing, did you ever walk down Friends?
I
Right
walked,
on down?
yes.
Oh, good. Did you ever notice there's about 6 sewers that are inoperable? Right on the parking and the curb on that property. Did you ever notice that?
No, actually, Eric is jotting that down right now, and I'm sure that's one of the things he's going to work on in the morning.
It's not, it's cute, because the large manhole sewers, those are functional, but the ones that are on the parking side of Maplewood, on the street, have never been operational. Absolutely never, which makes it kind of funny, you know.
Well, we'll
And
take a look
Your
at that.
building right there, not good.
Where are you located? Show me on here, show me where you are. Just,
Are you gonna visit me?
Well, I might, I'll try to get to know everybody before this is all done, won't
By all
I?
means, stop over. I love to talk to you. Right. I am the
Yeah.
third house.
I go by here, I know it, I've been over there. Okay, I know, I've been there.
I'm home a lot
Okay.
and walk a lot.
Thank you for your comments. They've been noted. What's, I'm going to let your young wife talk first, and then I'll let you talk, okay?
Hello, 239 North School Street, Martha Ritter.
And what's your name?
Martha Ritter.
Okay.
Everybody knows me, right? See?
Pull the mic, Martha, pull the microphone down. There you go.
I just want to know, with all the rentals that are going in there, is there going to be a company that's going to take care of them, or who's overseeing all this? Or are they just going to go pop right in there and go, here we are to rent apartments, and here's all your garbage thrown all over our neighborhood?
There'll be a rental company that'll be overseeing all of that. Actually, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but one of the people that I'm interested in is sitting right here watching this evening, so they're taking a lot of this in.
Okay, because if it's 4 stories high, that's a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
And I don't want that crap blowing into my yard, because I'm right backing up to it.
Just so you understand, when I say 4 stories, the only area that I'm talking about 4 stories is that along the tracks.
That's close to me.
Okay, well, you're not on the
That's
track,
your-
you don't live on the tracks, do you? This is.
I might after this. I might have to after this. You're getting closer and closer to my house, so apparently the tracks are going to be coming closer to my house. So apparently pretty soon they will be. I will be.
Thanks, Martha. George, did you want to jump in?
George who?
Like, you don't know.
George Ritter, her other half, her better half. He was talking about a retention pond right here. That one that's there right now overflows a lot. It's not adequate enough. And if you make that thing any bigger, how are you gonna get a road with a bridge over that retention pond from the train station? The exit by the firehouse?
Yeah,
I don't see how you can do it.
those are items that we're going to have to, work through and are going to be, those are items that we're going to have to work through. They're going to be a part of the engineering process here.
Okay. Thank you, George. Back to the second row. Anybody
Oops, one more here.
You're welcome.
Okay, Nick Cosman, 201 North School. This is going to be more reinforcing and reiterating points already made, but I've been in the neighborhood a little more than a year. It was May of last year I really moved in. And I work in Palatine, grew up in Hoffman Estates. So I'm familiar with the properties you're discussing. And I spent a year and a half looking for a community and a neighborhood that I felt comfortable in and wanted to move into. I turned away from Cook County because I saw every small neighborhood there becoming more urban and like we're discussing here. I didn't want any part of that, so I chose to move to this community, our community now, and I just really like the small town feel. So that's, like everybody has already said, that's what we're going for. That's why I moved here. That's why I want to spend my life here. And that's about all I have to say, so.
Thank you, Dick.
Good deal, good deal.
Anybody else in the second row on this side have anything they want to say? We'll move, anybody on the second row? Okay, we'll go back to the third row. Anybody on the third row have anything they'd like to offer? Come on up.
All right. I'm Dan Seibert. I live 410 West Main Street, right on the other side of the property there. I have two interests. I obviously live right by the area, and I'm also involved with the baseball and softball league. So the first thing I want to ask, I'm concerned that there wasn't a plan developed today, and I just want to make sure that there will be another meeting like this once the plan is developed, where the community can come in and and give some comments. My other comment is that area along Northwest Highway is kind of the face of Cary. You know, as you come around that curve, I just want to make sure that, you know, we're not seeing some rundown apartments and, you know, people thinking, geez, I'm glad I don't live this place. And the other comment I have is on the baseball and softball side. Are there any accommodations in the comprehensive plan to accommodate or to replace the 5 ball fields that are being lost at Maplewood? And if not, is the village willing to work with CGYBS and the Park District and some other sports organizations to replace the fields? And you don't need to answer that question now. It's just something I want you to think about.
I can kind of touch a little bit about, I can't speak for that, it'll depend on this, but the Park District they just completed their comprehensive plan, and they have identified baseball fields at the Cary Grove Park, which is right next to the high school. I believe they have 3 that is penciled in there for right now, but I would check with them.
Okay.
They're well aware of what's going on.
And we have had some discussions with them, but I guess my question too is, would the village be willing to be more involved in maybe acquiring some land and helping us develop it along with the Park District?
That would be a question for another day.
Something for you to think about.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Continue on with the third row. Is there somebody else that would like to? Please come up.
My name is Kristen Fadden, and I live at 26 North Prairie Street. So I live directly across from Maplewood School presently, right on the corner. So I'm concerned about how many cars are going to be coming out of that new part coming down my street. I mean, my street is only 2 houses long, and now with you guys changing the way that the parking is on there, I'm very concerned about if people are going to be parking on both sides of the road, it's very hard to get a car going down one way and a car going down the other way. There's no way. There can only be one car. I've taken pictures, I've seen it, where cars are actually backing up to get through. So to put another, I'm just going to throw out a number, say 200, 300 units in that area, some of them are going to come out on Prairie or dump onto Krenz. Yeah, you're going to put that other road in there, but the ones in the front are not going to be using that part. So I'm just very concerned about that. My other concern is, yeah, fire truck cannot go through. My husband will tell you that. The other part is with taking down Maplewood, which we all know was going to happen. Ken, we've been here for long enough to know that. But right now, there's no place for those kids to play. There's no park in our neighborhood whatsoever. Once that playground is taken away, there is no park. And just an open space is great. And, of course, my kids are older, so I don't necessarily need the playground, but there are a lot of young families in our neighborhood, and there's no park. They either have to cross Main Street, which there's no crossing guards during the regular, part of the day, or they have to go across Carry-Algonquin Road. So I would really like to see a park, some kind of park to play in there. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I would be willing to bet that there will be a park on that property somewhere. We'll jump the aisle over here. Anybody on the third row over here?
Hi, Jen Crick, 315 Inverness Drive, Cary. This isn't really for you, but I just really wanted to thank Jen Weinhammer for taking the time to go door to door and ask residents their questions, because I really feel like that this is being absorbed, at least by some of the trustees, and the questions that are being asked are very good questions, and they're not going to go away, and this is not just for show. So the questions that are asked are being absorbed and being processed and will come again. So I thank you for your work. And then I'm going to just piggyback on what Kristen said about a park. If we're going to put a park in, I would really encourage, I know this is probably Park District or whoever, but the village, I would really encourage the village to consider a park that would be adaptable, usable for children with special needs. We can look, there's a lot of different organizations, but that is one thing that this village seriously lacks. And working with babies and infants and toddlers who have special needs, it is very hard for me to get them out into this community and give them a safe place to play. So I would really encourage an adaptability park. Thanks.
You over there? We'll go back to the fourth row on this side.
I never misunderstood.
Fourth row on that side. Anybody want to address the board or have a comment for the developer? Jump over here. Come on up.
My name's Jerry Barrett at 557 Krenz. I've been there probably about 50 years. And my question for you is, looking at that, we've got like 3 or 4 entrances and exits, and they all come out to Krenz and they all go to Main Street. Tonight, when I came here tonight, my neighbor next door, I saw walking. I left after them in a car. We met here at the same time. So what does that tell you about traffic? Depending upon the density, it's going to be forever to get here. I'll have to leave at 5 o'clock to make a 6 o'clock time. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Is there anybody on this side that would like to have a comment?
Andrea Rouse, I live on Krenz Avenue. My mother wanted me to come to this meeting. My mother's Mary Rouse. I'm listening to all these great ideas, but I just want to know, you probably can't even give me an answer, why wasn't Maplewood turned into a community center? We wouldn't have to have this meeting. You'd be able to rent it out. People could have family reunions. The scouts could use it. It'd be a spot for the people to come and meet. We'd still have the, baseball fields, whatever. But I'm just saying, it could have been turned into something that the community could have used instead of having new homes being built into an area that is single family homes. And that's all I needed to say.
Anybody else on this side? Come on up.
My name is Randy Sadi. Sorry, I'm going to get emotional because I just bought a house and I wanted to raise my family here, and now I'm hearing all of this and I'm questioning. It was Jennifer. She was the one that came and told me about this, and I'm starting to get emotional because it's so many eyes. I'm used to talking in front of children. I'm actually a teacher, so I'm not used to talking to adults. But anyway, I'm just saying, We lived here 8 years ago, and we searched for a home, and we saved all of our money and bought a home here because we wanted to have a family. And now I'm worried that that's going to change, and that I sunk all my money into this house. And then what's the resale value of my house going to be after these apartments are put in? Am I going to be able to get my money back? And that's like my concern. So that's all I had to say. I'm sorry for the emotions.
It's okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Rich Foster from 520 Cary Algonquin Road. The road heading north out of the property where it hits Cary Algonquin Industrial, are they going to line that road so that it can be used to come out of there?
I believe that's the plan. I mean, it depends on what the final development, the exact layout of it's going to be, but, you know, the developer, the whole premise of this meeting is just to get what the tolerance and what people are looking for and what they would like to see or not see, and then you can put pen to paper and figure out how these things will be laid out.
Yeah.
Generally, it's intended that that road would be an access road for the development that goes out to Cary Algonquin Road.
Goes out to Cary Algonquin Road, make a left where it doesn't line up. At that corner is really tough. I do it every day.
Yeah, all those things are going to have to be considered here through the process, preliminarily planning the road.
Is that going to be a 2-lane road in and out?
The access road?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the intention.
That's the
You
intention.
know, there's been a couple comments about traffic. Part of the development that we've done, and there will be an official traffic, third-party traffic study that will help us make these decisions that we can line up along with our village engineer, Director Morimoto. They'll set these things up, and we'll see how these things will all be laid out and what it's going to be the best and safest way to put these things in.
Because that's going right by the piece of property I have there.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question with regard to his?
Sure.
So I'm looking at it here where Siebert would extend out to Cary Algonquin Road. And currently it doesn't look like it would line up with industrial. And I don't know, I know you guys said that you would try and make it line up. Is there space to go ahead and line it up?
I'll jump into that one. From the concept plan here just looks at some of the existing conditions and how those roadways will connect into the site. So any new development would look at that intersection for ways that it could be improved and alignment could be modified so that it provides access both industrial drive and into this area.
I guess I'm asking, is there a building right there that would not allow you to line it up? The fire department's there, so it can't be lined up, or it can?
Again, those are definitely valid points and things that, as the development process goes forward, the petitioner and through their traffic study that the mayor mentioned would be required as part of the development process would have to look at and address. From what we've looked at, just from our own analysis conceptually, even before there was development opportunity in the works, there's different ways you can handle that offset. Some of them are more direct than others, some more challenging than others, but there's a variety of ways that can be accomplished, and it'll be up to the developer's engineers, obviously, to work through the process with the village and find the most appropriate one.
Thanks.
Hi, Bonnie Floor, I'm 332 Krenz. And Siebert is currently a dead end, and you've got it drawn as a traffic flow. And when they built the commuter lot, I mean, that was huge, that the commuter traffic was not coming out Siebert, and that it's a dead end. So is there plans to be changing that? I mean.
Right now, what I would say is that.
That's not a good traffic arrow there.
Yeah, this is just a concept here that was developed.
Right, okay, so I mean, a lot of this is all the traffic, and we got hundreds of cars and hundreds of people cramming, coming down School Street and Prairie Street and Siebert Street and across Krenz to get into there. That's just a lot. So that, yeah, that trafficking down Siebert is definitely and your commuter lot is not drawn correctly, but that's,
This is, I know.
that's that. Okay, then the other thing.
Let me just address that, so
Yeah.
you know, this is just a concept plan, it's not, it's not written in stone, this is just, this
Yeah.
is what our consultants came up with after the input of residents and what they would like to see, so this is how they, it's just an idea, it's not in stone, this is not exactly what it's going to do.
Okay, so I'm just saying, the concern of that, but the other thing is, again, the green space, which several have spoken to, it just, the 12 acres of green space that has been in this neighborhood, and like you say, the kids cannot go anywhere out of this neighborhood. I mean, I can remember when my kids were little, it was like, okay, you can trick or treat just in our neighborhood. You know, don't go across Main Street, don't go across Carroll Algonquin, because we knew we could just trick or treat from Maplewood and the whole area. And there was no park, there's no green space. And that amount that's drawn there, I don't know, if there's some kind of percentage that's supposed to be with the development and parks and, you know, whatever that magic formula is, there's something, I don't know what it is, but somebody does. But it seems like it should be more than what is on there right now of that little bit, because that's barely the size of Maplewood School. That green rectangle is about hardly the size of the actual building. So if you think about kids trying to fly kites or do anything, so whatever the magic formula is for Cary with green space and residential, I think it should be a lot larger.
That was one of my questions that I have for later to be addressed, was the open space and the park space that we have drawn into the plan. Do we have a size agreement that we're saying we want so many acres of green space versus development?
No, from a development standpoint, there's no standards that are established in the zoning ordinance for park to development areas. This plan, again, it's the concept plan as far as that some green element needs to be included in a development plan. So the ending development could have a larger park or a different modification or area for where that green space could be. Is just that some sort of green space needs to be incorporated into the development.
And we talked about the green space possibly being part of the development versus more of a separate space for residents that live outside of that development. I think if it's part of the development, it kind of inhibits people wanting to go in and be part of that development. And then also, is it deeded to the village? Does it stay with the development? Go to the park district? Do we have anything in place for that?
All valid questions. I mean, it could be maintained as a private park, part of the development, that there's an HOA that would be developed, could maintain, facilities on the park, or it could be something that could be dedicated to the park district, for their maintenance and improved upon as part of the development. It's all part of the development process. We can learn to have those discussions and become more versed on what that final scope would be.
I think too, when we're talking about the green space, obviously, we want as much green space as we can get out there. But when you think about it, the more green space that there is, the less developable property there is. And so you're looking at the developer then is probably going to ask to go higher, have more dense development if there's more green space. And so these are just things that, we'll discuss and work through with the developer here.
I'm just going to add that obviously with a lot of the great feedback about traffic, and obviously the developer is looking for feedback initially. This is not his plan, so a lot of the stuff you see here, the traffic flow arrows, the size of detention, they're great pictures and concepts to get the conversation started, get the idea across. Not developed by an engineer, I can say that. But when the engineers do get involved, though, they obviously will make the things the appropriate scale, make the plan work the appropriate, take into account the appropriate requirements that are in place, especially with stormwater. From the traffic perspective, I just wanted to add that obviously with the traffic study that will be done, those studies do incorporate analysis of the existing traffic patterns, traffic volumes, whereas the current neighborhood traveling to and from, how many cars are going through the intersections. Then they will account for, with the proposed development, once Mr. Taylor has a site plan, his team will obviously then apply the appropriate numbers based on the current engineering standards for how much traffic is generated by different kinds of development, by X number of unit apartment building or X number of units of townhomes or single family homes. Those things that I think a lot of neighbors are rightfully bringing up will be incorporated into that traffic study. So once there's a real site plan in place and once that study is conducted, I think a lot of these answers that you're bringing up will be brought before you. And then I think you'll get a lot of that feedback then, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Aaron. Oh, let me just get to the rest of the crowd before I go round two here. All right, please come up.
My name is Jim Hirsch. I live in Crystal Lake, but I own industrial property along the railroad tracks opposite Norman. The road currently runs between Norman and our property. If we're going to stuff all these cars out that road, it is critical that that intersection lines up at Cary Algonquin Road. You can get killed over there. I invite anybody to come on over and try and get out of there during rush hour. Try to get on industrial. Because it's an absolute hazard. Fortunately, right now, there's not a lot of traffic coming out of our deal. It's us, a couple of buildings. But if you're going to be dumping train parking lots and this development out there, it's going to be a nightmare. So just make sure that it's part of your plan. And the second thing is, who's going to be paying for that? You know, see as how part of it's going to be your train depot stuff, correct? And part of it's going to be these guys. Who is going to be paying for all those improvements?
We hear you. Is there anybody else in the back that would like to offer some comments?
I'm Teresa Slavic. I live in Krenz Avenue. I guess for me, it's hard to come here. I appreciate the presentation because it means a lot to me because I live in that area. I can't get a hold of high density versus low density. That's a crux for me. Is it 100? Is it 400? So that's for something for me is very important. And I know a lot of people who live around me, we want to know. I kind of feel like we're going to say, I hope that it's not going to be vote for the plan and then we'll find out what's in the plan later. I want to know all the details now. There's so many things, transportation, the height of the buildings, the density, EPA. I don't know if you've worked with EPA issues before. That building has to come down and there's probably a ton of asbestos and issues with that. That's the issue. There's a gas tank underground that we talked about 10 years ago. There's just lots of issues that will affect us. I'm a very proud Briargate parent. I love the school. To tell me you might put 400 apartments in with 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments and to tell me it's not going to impact Briargate, I'm not sure that's logical. I'm not saying it's not, but it's a concern. Briargate is the only school on this side of town now because of what Cary 26, the decisions they've made. So we want to make sure that that part of our town is protected with the students that we have because it's an amazing school and we don't want to have to be that we bring in all this density apartments and then our children are bused to Three Oaks or Deer Path or wherever. It's very important to us. So we appreciate that. I just hope, again, that we're going to have transparency. We're going to know the information before you all vote on it so we can make decisions. And I do really want to thank Jen, too, for reaching out to our community. I give you such a kudos for doing that and being the impetus to ask us because the last time the last developer who came in didn't do that. So I appreciate you reaching out to us and then you really reaching out to us and knowing that our vote counted and what we have to say, like we matter. So thank you very much.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the board?
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Could you, we have somebody else coming up right now. Hold on.
You go first. He's got more speed I moved to Cary in 1981. My name is Dave Graham. I think you can hear me over here. I live right here. Right here. And to take away that beautiful area, I have watched thousands and thousands of softball games and baseball games. I can see the development. I understand why. But to put apartments over here to block the horizon, every night I look out my window, such a quiet area, the people that work so hard to keep everything nice in the area. I take great pride in my house, both outside and also the people in the neighborhood, they take great pride in their work too. And to have this, all of a sudden like, okay, let's put some apartments over there. Let's put in 1,500 people over there. You know, it's a nice, quiet, peaceful area. So anyway, again, Jen, thank you for all your help. It was great to see you for those 2 days walking around. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Okay.
Bill Rietveld, R-I-E-T, V as in Victor, E-L-D as in David, 551 Krenz. I don't think that any of you here are, well, some of you might, but I was part of Northwood Fur Farms. And years back, there was a bigger stink, excuse the pun, than this, okay? We filled up the high school auditorium because of the development that Mr. Decker wanted to put in there. And I appreciate the fact that you're here, okay? I have a suggestion. Get your people out in the neighborhood and start knocking on doors and find out what the heck's going on there, really what's going on. Just a suggestion. The second comment I would like to make is that I'm the neighbor that walked. All right? Krenz Avenue is like a secondary thoroughfare for Main Street. Okay? If there's anything going on Main Street, guess where they go to get away from the train station? Krenz Avenue. I noticed that a few months ago or weeks ago, there was a traffic study done or things out on the street. I was curious if there's any information, on what they found. How many cars go down there? Okay? You're going to impact that neighborhood with anything that you do there except making it a big park. And maybe if you make it a big park, then we'd be happy to see the cars come up and down the street. Something's got to be done there. I agree. I mean, it can't just sit empty. Change is inevitable, okay? But please, please, consider every option that's out there, okay? The young man that, has this great plan of apartments, single-family, detached condos, an open space. One of the things he said was, oh, I wouldn't put that open space there. Well, the neighbors in our neighborhood want that open space there because it's blocking everything else. All right? The Krenz Avenue curse, the sewers, the septics, all of that stuff was brought up. At times, it's a lake there in that whole area. I'm just voicing my opinion, and hopefully that this process, what we're going through, will be a continued process where we're not shut out, where rubber stamped, this is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Very good.
Is there anybody else in the back that would like to address the board? Hold on one second.
This is not for me, it's my next door neighbor. She wanted to know if there was going to be garages put in the development. Then, garages, okay.
Sir, did you have something?
Good evening. Thank you for having the meeting. My name is Jim Chambers. I'm on 323 Krenz, and pretty much all of my concerns have already been brought up in one form or another. So just to reiterate, the open space along Krenz Avenue, I think, is really important. What's really just sticking out to me are all those townhomes, the yellow vertical line right there. I was reading the note there. It says basically, item B, townhomes at the edge of the Maplewood school property, allows new development to transition to greater density toward the rail line without negatively impacting the adjacent single-family community. I just don't see how those townhomes could in any way positively impact the adjacent single-family community. So, I mean, whoever put that comment in there, if they could please explain that, that would be fantastic. Because I've seen that, I've been doing subdivision inspections for an engineering firm for about 15 years. And those townhomes, I mean, they're ugly. They go in cheap. They're the smallest lot you could get. They put as many of them in there and they sell cheap, and it will bring down the property value of the adjacent homes. That's a concern for me. I moved there about 2 years ago. I probably put in close to $30,000 in my home in the past 2 years. I have 2 kids, one at Briargate, which is going to see more children, whether you want to admit it or not. Adding 300 people is certainly going to impact the schools. The traffic is going to be greatly increased. I mean, there's no question about it. So yeah, I'm very curious about seeing the final development plans, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to add some comments? George? Well,
George Ritter again. Just out of curiosity, how many units do you, the way this is set up right now, how many units do you anticipate building?
I never did a count on it even.
You know? Okay. And secondly, I don't know if you know this, but Maplewood was a lake 3 times since we've been living here. They were out there with canoes, canoeing on Maplewood property. That's how bad that flooding area is.
I've seen water out there every time I've been there.
Well, not just water, they were out there with canoes, and the ducks were having a heyday.
They're probably fishing.
Thank you. Come on up.
Whoops. Oh, sorry. You mentioned earlier that you built 100 homes in Cary.
Yeah.
I'm just a little curious, where are they?
Greenfield, 2, 7, and 8.
Greenfield?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll open up one more time. Anybody else have decided they wanted to have a comment? Okay, come on.
My name is David Stevens. I live on 338 Krenz Avenue. When I first bought my property not that long ago, right there on the corner where it's going to be affected, just like Bonnie is, I did not envision seeing this being there. I mentioned single-family homes, maybe a park, like everybody else wanted. This would definitely negatively impact my life. I've seen this happen where I came from. They put big townhomes, like condos, right next to the railroad tracks where I came from. They were good at first, until all the people started leaving there, and then turned into Section 8 housing. Then it went all to hell. This is what would possibly, I'm not saying it's what's going to happen, but when you put stuff that tall, that close to a railroad station, not many people want to be there. Who wants to sit right next to a railroad track and hear that all night? Eventually people won't want to go there. Townhomes or single-family homes in the area, make it as much as you can in there, that can be done. But this tall stuff, I don't agree with that. I don't think anybody in this room agrees with having 3- or 4-story buildings anywhere. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. One final time, anybody else have a comment that they want to make? Anybody back there?
A comment or question real quick. I'll just stand here.
We're recording this, so if you can come up to the microphone, that would be better.
As far as traffic and congestion, since it's a hot button, when they do reports, is there any kind of idea of what kind of radius they go? Not necessarily for the centralized direct effect to the neighborhood, but if anybody has the pleasure of going through Foxford Grove between 4 and 6 p.m., I leave early enough in the morning, it doesn't affect me, but coming home at any time between 4 and 6. So what kind of effect is it going to have, the farther out you get? I mean, people spread out, yeah, but Route 14 is the main thoroughfare there. There's no other way to get here or, farther east. So is there any kind of idea of what kind of radius?
Do you want to, Eric, can you speak to what is typical for a traffic study?
So with each development, the traffic studies, the areas of focus that will be studied and included as part of the analysis, it will vary depending on the development proposed. So for example, a shopping center that's going to have 500,000 square feet of retail, obviously is going to have a bigger traffic generation, bigger number of cars impacting the roadways adjacent to it at a further radius than a development of 4 single-family homes, for example. So based on once the actual site plan is submitted as part of the review process, the developers, engineers, and staff will get together and will agree upon what the scale and the extent of the traffic study would be. So it will, I can't say right now, but it will definitely be appropriate to the scale of whatever is proposed.
Thank you, Eric. Final call. Give one more chance. Somebody wants to.
Hi, I'm Ted Egan, 565 Krenz Avenue, and I've lived here since 1976. I had a couple questions. I was on the park board for 12 years, and back in the 80s and early 90s, there was an ordinance on the books on calculating how much donation for the parks to the park district. And I was hoping somebody from the park district was here now, but apparently not. And also, I don't consider the retention, detention area as part of the park, because we had that problem back in the 80s. The other question I had is, you mentioned that the apartment buildings would probably be built by somebody that you bring in. Are you getting this plan developed and then bring other developers in to build, or are you actually going to be building something?
I will be developing the majority of it.
Okay. All right, my last question was the buffer areas. Are those just bushes and trees?
That's not his plan. Remember, that's not
The
his
buffer
plan.
areas?
Let's reiterate that the plan that you're looking at right now is just a concept that was developed for our comprehensive plan. It has no indication of what he's
this
going to
isn't
bring.
his plan.
It's not his plan. He's gathering the information now from the feedback from the residents and the board, and he's going to put something for us to consider. And the public will be invited to be a part of that as well.
All right.
So this is just an idea of what was going to be thought for there.
Okay. Well, I'm also concerned about the density. I'm down by Wolf Street, and also more parks, the better. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Kim Wilkinson. I live at 232 West Main. So I'm not directly in the neighborhood surrounding Maplewood, but right there on West Main. I'm right next to the insurance company there. I already see a lot of traffic, especially with the commuter. I wouldn't necessarily mind Seabird being opened up so that to lessen traffic by my house. That's not exactly my question. My question was, how long will the construction take? I think you said your other project took, maybe it's still going. It's been going 4 or 5 years. How much noise are we talking for how long, I guess?
Based on my interpretation of what I think that density is, it's probably about a 5-year program from start to finish.
Is that through the course of construction or from the village process through final completion?
That's from the time we probably turn our first shovel to the time we complete our last unit.
Okay. That's fine.
Kevin Rather, 337 West Main Street, at the corner of Prairie and Main there. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for everyone doing this. My question, though, is not so much the development itself as you spoke earlier of antiquated ordinances. Will we revisit ordinances when the development gets proposed, whether it be to safeguard our current residents, future residents, as far as even fencing, sidewalks? Going out, I'm thinking of this as like a nuclear bomb hitting, and then and I'm not trying to be, like a jerk or sarcastic, and just spreading out. So once they can't get through that traffic, they'll come up behind me and come up Prairie. And then they'll take one street over. To get the quickest way through the neighborhoods, is there any way that we're going to change maybe ordinances or speak ordinances once that development starts to happen?
What ordinances are you referring to?
Fence placement, sidewalks, easements, anything like that. Like maybe if there was even a way to increase foot traffic, making it, instead of one sidewalk on one side, maybe put another sidewalk in, increasing foot traffic, maybe incentives of a bike lane, something like that. I don't know. I'm just guessing here, to ease the traffic congestion that's already there prior to this coming in. I don't know. Just trying to think of, I know it's affecting a lot of people here immediately there, but I think it's going to have that ripple effect taking down from Cary Algonquin to the train, all the way to the back and all the way to the train there, So.
Good point. Brian, could you address that about the codes and ordinances with regards to the future development?
Before Brian says something, just want to ask something too. So you're at Prairie and Main.
Prairie and West Main and Prairie.
Okay. So when I was over at your house, you said there's no sidewalk on the Prairie side, right?
That would be East Prairie side. West Prairie, there is a sidewalk.
Okay. So the one that borders your home, there's no sidewalk for anybody to go ahead and walk on? Okay.
I mean, there's not even a sidewalk that goes all the way up West Main. When you get to Cary Algonquin, it eventually just dead ends.
Right.
And now you're playing chicken to get across to the other side to jog over. It's very illogical to me, and I don't mean to offend anyone. Just, I don't know the process.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure. From a development standpoint, from a codes, when the development goes through the zoning process, it would be under our existing zoning regulations. We're currently in the process with working with a consultant to assist with updating our development regulations. So any future development there would still have to conform to our zoning regulations that are in place at the time, but we look for, that would signify where fences and things are located. And if any proposal does not comply with our development regulations, they would need a variance, and surrounding property owners would be notified of any relief that's being requested for a project. So I'm assuming that answers the question, but as far as other improvements that are in the area for bike sidewalks and things that, that are immediately adjacent to the subdivision, we would work with the developer to potentially fill in gaps, but further out from the site is a long-term planning project for the village to look at from a budgeting standpoint if other infrastructure can be put in as well.
Thank you. All right, I think we've heard from everybody that wanted to be heard from. We thank you for participating in this. This will be the first of many meetings discussing any potential development here at Maplewood. This was an introductory. This is the first time the board has actually sat down and met the developer. So he's taking all the information that you've offered and the information that the board is, and he's going to come back. I don't know exactly what his timeline is for where you think that you're going to want to come back with some sort of a site plan or an idea. Is that something that you can answer for us now?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
But I will, no, but to answer your question, let me tell you something. I'll be back as I quickly possibly can but I've taken all of our notes and we're going to assemble them and put it together, and I'll be back as quick as I possibly can. I can tell you that.
Well, we just want to make sure that the public is notified, given opportunities. I just recommend that if you don't get the Cary News Weekly, please sign up for the Cary News Weekly, that it'll be publicized on there. Check our Facebook, or not our Facebook, our website. It'll be highlighted on there, and always feel free to reach out to village staff or an elected official to get some additional information. This has been a great information gathering meeting. We look forward to seeing you guys again, coming to other meetings and getting some, having some really good, thoughtful conversations with what we feel would be best for the village of Cary moving forward. So thank you very much for participating.
I would just like to add too, if there are folks that weren't able to speak tonight or weren't interested in speaking tonight, you can certainly send email comments into Village Hall. That's villagehall@caryillinois.com for us to review. So thank you.
Okay, the village board have any other comments?
I'd like to address a few of the things that were brought up. Issue I heard over and over again was the traffic and the concern with the traffic, and that's one of my greatest concerns too, is that I don't want to see that increased. And what we're trying to do with this back road out to Cary Algonquin is to reduce that amount of traffic that we see on Main Street. Everybody that's leaving downtown is heading there, then heading up to Cary Algonquin to either go over to Bright Oaks. They're not going through the intersection there, so it's on the Main Street. I mean, we can put in restrictions in terms of signage if we do extend Seabird and Prairie that say, you know, between 4 and 6 o'clock, you're not able to exit that way. We want you exiting out to Cary Algonquin. If we can align that intersection there at the Industrial Drive with this new road coming out with stop lights and that, you know, to try to direct that traffic to keep it flowing and moving. That's some of the things that we're trying to address is this issue with the traffic and the congestion that we have down there. Another issue that I heard brought up tonight was the park space and the open space that we're looking for. Definitely something I want to, living right there in that neighborhood. One of the ideas that I have running through my head would be that the front part of the property from Seabird, from Prairie Street to School Street, would be that open space. And somehow, if we could, have you ever demolished a building before? I mean, in terms of?
Oh, yeah.
The gymnasium has some significant history in the community.
Yeah.
And that would be something I would be interested in trying to maybe preserve. And I know some people are going to roll their eyes and say, oh my God, you know, what a albatross that you want. But I think it has a lot of potential in terms of it has a stage, it has dressing rooms, it's got a lot of potential there. It's got a box office to show movies. And that, so I think it has a lot of potential to be an integral part of the community and maybe an anchor for our section of town to draw people in. McHenry just granted an $80,000 grant, I think, to Smith Central Garage. And when I saw the picture in the paper, it looked very similar to the structure of the Maplewood gym. And that I know it would, you know, cost, it said it cost $800,000 to improve the facility up in McHenry. So I know it's going to take a lot of money to turn that gymnasium into something special. And perhaps if we could keep one of the classrooms and then there was a teacher's lounge behind it, you know, keep those two rooms adjacent to the gymnasium to give us a little bit of a look of what Maplewood School looked like at one time. Arts Society in Cary, the Cary Arts Association, you know, the Historical Society, perhaps they would want to partner with people and try to do fundraisers and work some way to try to preserve that part of the site. And then that gives me a little more, okay, they're trying to work with us, and then maybe I'm willing to give a little more in the back because I've heard a lot of concern about density, apartments, and those are some of the things that I have too. So that would be something that I would be interested in pursuing further, if it would be something that you could consider also in some of your plans that you bring back to us.
If any information you have on that, you know, I'm not aware of it, so this is the first I've heard of it. So
okay.
If you've got anything like that, any of you, please feel free to give it to the staff and they'll get it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
The more I know, the better off I am.
If you have anything, Trustee Kraus, you know, please forward it to me and I'll make sure that Mr. Taylor gets that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of that till you mentioned it. Thank you.
There are washrooms in the gym.
Oh, correct, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wash them on their storage.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, George.
Okay, anything else from the village board?
Yeah, I have something to say. And this question is to everybody here tonight. I appreciate you coming out, but really, you know, this is for feedback for the developer. And the feeling I'm getting, and the reason I asked him in the beginning about his lowest common denominator plan and the density, because I viewed that this was what was going to happen. So I was wondering, by a show of hands, who here tonight is in favor of this sort of concept? Okay. Then, and I know, I'm not really sure how to phrase this. If there was a concept that was half the density, and I don't even know what that is because we don't even know what this is, would anybody be in favor of half the density?
It depends on the building.
It's too hard to say.
Okay. And then, okay. And then who here is in favor of only having parks open space for this lot?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to direct, because this is a very dense development in my eyes. In fact, I'm looking at that going, I don't even know how that meets our ordinances. And I know it's just a plan. It's not a hard plan. But when I look at that, it is really dense. And that was my concerns in the beginning. And I wasn't trying to be mean about it. I was trying to warn you that this sort of plan is probably not going to fly in this town. And I'm trying to save you the expense. If you're thinking that 300 or 400 apartments and townhomes are going to fly, I don't think that's going to fly. And I'm sorry.
Just a minute, wait, let's let him finish here. I'll call you as soon as he's done, thank you.
Actually, I understand what you're saying, and that's part of the reason I'm here. I mean, I'm not thin-skinned. And what I'm trying to do is get something from everybody up here. I understand that, but I've gone through enough zoning, and I'm not trying to figure the right choice of words to use, but that's a soundbite from one. And usually I've gone through it and all of a sudden there's kind of a consensus. Now, normally you don't get a consensus built at one presentation where I am tonight. And I'm not sure I would try to force an answer out tonight because I don't think it's fair for either side.
Right.
But at some point, I think it would be the world's worst thing to have this discussion, and that's part of the reason I wanted to just discuss this plan. I didn't want to bring my version in. I wanted to find out where you were with this plan collectively as the village. Because if it is something that isn't going to fly, and it isn't going to go through, tell me. I just, I'm not against it. I want to know. I want to have a frank discussion. But my only point is that I think if something's ever going to be done with this, and part of the reason I want you to see who I am and why I came here, if it's ever going to be done, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I think I can do as nice a job in your community as anybody you'll find anywhere. So if you want it to be a cornfield or if you want to keep it in ball fields, that's not me. But if there is something in here, and I really question when you start raising an issue of half the density or something, right? Because we don't know what the word density is here in this subject. And I think I understand the density, and I could put myself being one of these neighbors sitting here, living in those single-family homes there. And I understand that I'm not trying to, if I was over there trying to push a 4-story apartment down your throat, I could see why. I'd be upset. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I think what I'm proposing is a type of a product, a townhouse, and I'd like to even do something different than the word townhouse. But I do believe that the product that I will be putting in your community, and you could talk about values and that, will exceed, far exceed, and will not have any effect whatsoever on the value of your homes, only increase them. That's end of my political speech.
Well, you're up there. I just have another question, kind of piggybacking off of Trustee Kostler's. Is it feasible or profitable to come up with a plan for single-family homes there?
I doubt it very much when you say a single family, and I don't think you're prepared to answer that. You'd have to tell me what your single family, because I could tell you something, you'd have to have a lot of density, but it would be a detached single family.
Mm-hmm. I'm talking about like a traditional single-family home like that's in the current Maplewood area.
No, I'm not capable of doing that, not even close. Not even close. Thanks.
Sir.
I'm Steve Dignan-Schmidt. I live at 1320 Mulberry Lane. I was curious, when the vote was made to approve the Sage product building and that expansion, who voted on the board? Who voted in favor of that?
I was not on the board.
I was not on the board.
I did.
I voted for it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you voted for that.
Mm-hmm.
I live over there. All that traffic, all that mess is affecting me. I don't remember anybody coming to my door and asking me what I thought.
That whole neighborhood.
You never walked through my door.
It doesn't mean that I may have shown up at your door. You may not have been there.
Oh, well, that's true. That may have happened. What all I'm trying to say is to try to chase a developer out because you have a point of view. I would
This is
ask.
not my point of view.
Well, I don't want to debate.
Theirs.
I'm here for you to listen. Okay. I'd like to see what a developer is going to bring forward. I'm going to deal with my whole life changing because of that new building on Sage product. All the people in those townhomes are now looking at the backside of that Sage product building or Stryker building. That's what they had to deal with. Now, that's part of the change. I grew up with my family on West Main Street. I lived there from 1987 until we moved back into Cambria. My kids went to Maplewood. I coached baseball on those fields for 15 years for a daughter and a son. I know those attachments. My kids were there. Our kids played together. One of the cool things about it is there, but I don't want to pay for any more park district. My allotment out of our park district and my taxes is the most ridiculous amount of money. I like green space too, but guess what? I can't pay any more of those taxes. I've seen on websites that there's supposedly a $500,000 gap in the budget. Okay, I don't know if that's fake news or real news, but if there's a gap in budget, one thing that'll happen is we can generate some revenue for the village out of homes like that. I don't know if it's a lot or if it's a little. I just want to have some ideas. That property's been vacant forever. We need to do something. I don't know if it's this, and for the people that live in that neighborhood, I hope it works for you. I really do. But I'm just saying, as a Cary resident, I want more stuff that keeps me in this village. Because if it doesn't happen that way, I'm going to look for a new place. Thank you.
I'd just like a second to respond to some of the things you said about Sage, Mr. Schmidt. Duggan Schmidt. I did champion for many changes to that site plan, which helped the residents right around you, which was increased setback and also change of the entrance to the loading docks. So I was one of the only people on this board that did that. So I don't really appreciate the insinuation that I was causing an issue there. I was the one championing for the people there, okay?
Okay, all right, we're gonna end this right now. Is that okay, Trustee Coster? Did you finish what you wanted to say? Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment?
I'll just say I don't like how the current plan is. If it's anything like that, I don't like it. I would have liked to have seen some more of the mixed use, the retail as well, maybe a restaurant underneath or something like that, as opposed to just all this home. But I don't like it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else got anything to say, or do you want to?
I do. I just, first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone that came out here. I think it's really important that we have community input on things like this. I think it's going to help you when you develop your plan. I realize this is not your plan, but you're trying to find out what people want. I think we heard a lot of recurring themes of things that people feel that we still need to have in here. And I'm actually looking forward to what you're going to come back with to talk with us about and see if we can make it work. If we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. But I welcome the opportunity to have you come here to our village and want to work with us to see if there's something that can work.
You know, we've talked about some engineering and some flooding issues. And you know what, in the meeting that I'm having with you is not the first time I've been before a village and had these same discussions. And what I would like to do is I'd like to bring back my version of what we've talked about, and as quickly as I can. But I would like it to be what I call a concept plan. It won't be a preliminary plan. And it would be something that won't have the engineering on. It will have detention. It'll be far advanced from what you see over here from a standpoint of working in traffic and that. But I'd like to put my version to that together on a concept. And I would like to at least bring that concept plan in and present it to you. And then the residents are going to have to be, after you listen to them, and the board is going to have to make a decision whether you would want me to go to the next level.
Right.
And I think that's the best for you and for me and everybody and the residents. I mean, there's only so much stress we have to go through. And I'll put it together as quickly as I can in my version of it, and I'll show you my product, what we want to do, where I think the price points will be, and the density.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Taylor, do you have enough information that you've been given from the residents and the board is to get you to that next level to where you can put something that you think that would be tolerable for the village to move something forward? Did you get the information that you were looking for?
I think so. I think so. It was a lot to take in. I had several people making notes. My memory isn't as good as it used to be, and I'm not as quick as I used to be. But I think I have it all, and I will put it together, and I'll stay in touch with your staff, and I'd like to come back as quick as I can.
Great.
And then 30 days or less if I could.
Okay.
That's our goal.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We will keep you posted as to what's going on. Just so you know, our regular board meetings are the first and third Tuesdays of every month. We start at 6 o'clock with our village board meeting, and our committee of the whole starts immediately following. So stay engaged, ask us questions. We're here. It would be awesome if we had a crowd, maybe not all of you, but three quarters being engaged. This will help us make decisions on your behalf. So thank you very much. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.